Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. My brother Pete Najarian and I are going to break down for you why the market is bouncing today. We got to some of the lowest levels since 2022 in terms of relative strength. Does that mean that this is going to be a V-shaped recovery or just a one-day bounce? We'll describe for you right after this on the Rebel's Edge. Bam. Well, if you guys want to know the definition of confidence, that right there is the definition of confidence. I found that one in my perusing of reels and TikToks and so forth, Pete. And I thought, you know what? If that guy's got the confidence to get up on stage and do those poses.
You know what? Sometimes you got to laugh.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to start the show, is it not?
Oh, it is. It is indeed.
Well, he is, of course, Pete Najarian, folks. I'm Jon Najarian, and the shark, Mark Lopresti, is not here, and that was not the shark that you saw there in that video. But
we got to move on.
Yeah. I am going to say that the macro minute, because that is what we start with each day, Pete, is a little more optimistic for a change.
Yeah.
Yes, we got into a very oversold situation. The RSI, Relative Strength Index, traded down so hard yesterday. Like I said, I traced it back to 2022, Pete. But we've also got peace talks between Ukraine and Russia, and they appear to be causing people to say, well, maybe the world's not ending. Maybe I can buy something because Ukraine agreed to the U.S. terms. Now we've got to get Russia to agree to the U.S. terms. So Mr. Rubio, Secretary of State, will be heading over there. But that's my macro, Pete. How about you?
I think that's a fantastic one, John. I mean, the fact that we're making progress there. I mean, let's be honest. How long has the president been in office? Not that long. What is it, 50 days so far? I think something close to that. So when you look at what he's been able to accomplish so far, now I know that also we've got the negative side because we are in this tariff battle that's going on as well. And that's something that's going to have to just play itself out. We all knew it was going to have some effects early on that was going to be inflationary. But over time, if things go right, then we'll see how it actually pans out, which I think it makes a lot of sense that we would want an even playing field of some sort, no matter who the trade partner is. So I look at that. I look what's going on with Ukraine, Russia, and the potential of what could happen in the very, very near future. That is very bullish, I would say, for the market. So we'll see how that plays out. We could go nowhere, but the possibility right now is Ukraine's in, is Russia. And if Russia is, then things are starting to move pretty nicely to the upside.
Well, fantastic futures, Pete. I'm going to say that the calming, at least temporarily, if not for longer, of the fears of a World War III, those fears had obviously taken down everything from the markets to, in particular, crude oil, Pete. Crude oil is bouncing a little today. In fact, it's up better than 2%. So that is my fantastic future.
You know mine. You know what it's going to be. It's going to be all about the volatility. Yesterday, John, we got all the way up to 29.60, and then we pulled back. And we actually finished the day closer to the low of session, which was a pretty wide session, let's be honest. But, you know, what we've seen over the last month or so, year to date, we're up 52% on the volatility. 1 month, we're up 66% on volatility. Now here we are trading a lot closer to 25 today, down to 7% from yesterday. And that's after we hit those highs and then started that pullback. So a lot to be said about what's going on from the volatility standpoint. We did see some of the profits being taken off the table as well in the VIX. So the combination of some of those things, we're talking about 100,000 of those coming off, by the way, of the shorter term. The longer term plays that are out there in the VIX, they're still out there. But the shorter term, those got closed up yesterday. It's going to be very, very interesting next couple of days to see how this market can react, especially with some of the data that's going to be coming our way.
Well, let's dive into some stocks, Pete.
Let's do it.
And let's start with Spotify, SPOT. Why? Well, because they paid $10 billion in royalties last year. That's billion with a B, folks. Nearly 1,500 artists. Pete probably knows all of them, but nearly 1,500 artists generated $1 million or more in royalties. Now, for some artists, of course, it's pennies, it's nothing. But for other artists, it's a pretty significant deal. And given where technology is, Pete, in other words, since we've all got, a phone where you have the music on the phone and so forth, and the streaming to your home devices, I think that's not bad. That's probably pretty good. And Spotify is trading to the upside because of this.
Yeah, they're an aggressive leader, John, when it comes to the music side of things. And as you pointed out, I mean, it's a $60 billion business. So when they take out the 10 billion, gives you an idea of just how big they really are. This is really pretty daggone impressive. And by the way, you want to talk about impressive. How about when you look at their balance sheet? Because is the PE a little high? Maybe it is. It's trading at a 48 right now, price to earnings. But that being said, cash to debt is 4.75 billion. That's a pretty nice number. And then you look at the free cash flow, John, of $1.25 billion. We're talking about an industry that they're doing extremely well, and they use those numbers that you were talking about just to kind of give a reflection of what it really looks like out there. 10 billion in royalties. Not so bad. This is an industry where I think that if you are the big boys, and Spotify certainly is one of them, you can do very, very well for yourselves. Now, it's not that far off the 52-week highs either, John. I mean, the 52-week highs is 650. Here it is, 527. The 52-week low is 250. So it's a lot closer to those 52-week highs. Makes a lot of sense to me that maybe it could press right up against those numbers again.
Well, next we have Tesla, which I'm going to pose something to you, Pete. Is Tesla the new anti-woke vehicle?
Yes.
Because for years it was, okay, all of Trump's supporters, they all drive F-150s or Chevy trucks. And all of the left supporters drive Teslas, including AOC and so forth. But now, what's going on? Well, we've got people that are in here buying Teslas, including President Trump, buying one for the White House staff. And analysts, Pete, have estimated that if Republicans start endorsing Teslas by buying them, it could be another 1.7 million purchases over the next 4 years.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The one thing that needs to be pointed out is because he's spent so much, it's not necessarily because he is spending so much time with the president, but certainly when you look at the stock year to date, it's down, 40%, something like that, John? I mean, it's gotten beaten up. Now, I don't know necessarily that it's the environment. They would have been getting beaten up anyway, but they are a far cry from their 52-week highs of, call it 480. That being said, as you just pointed out, there are some catalysts out there that really could be massive for Tesla. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a lot of those numbers, maybe not as big a numbers as you just quoted out there, but if it was half that number, John, it would be a very large number in terms of some of those folks getting out there. And I would say it probably changes the valuation for Tesla in a big way as well. So I know that he stretches himself to a lot of different places. I'm talking about Musk, including even before being a part of this presidency and being in the White House on a very consistent basis. The guy, how many companies does he have? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And yet, he executes absolutely incredibly well for a guy with that much on his plate. It just shows you what he's able to do. And I think if the numbers are even just half of what you quoted, I think that Tesla's probably in a good spot. And we have seen some call buying in there too, right, John?
Yeah, we saw call buying, folks, in Tesla. They were in aggressively buying when the stock was 223 a share. Like Pete said, it was 480 on the highs right after the election. So when you look and see an opportunity like that, I bought the May 220 calls, Pete. Today, I sold the April 245s for almost, not quite, almost the same price. You know what that means? That means I've got a $25 spread on for free, practically. I paid $2 for it net. which means that this is a windfall at anything over 245. And you know what, Pete? I'm going to buy back those April 245s, hopefully next week or the week after time decay has affected them, and maybe write another one again. And who knows, maybe I'll just take delivery of the stock because I think this was overdone.
Yep.
All right, take a look at this one. This one is CXM, Sprinklr Corp. Well, what do? They develop social software platforms for planning and publishing and so forth. I've never used them, but the stock is up 19%, Pete, and it's all on the kind of earnings you love to report on, so I'm going to give it to you.
Well, they beat on the expectations, right? They came out with 10 cents. They were looking for 7 cents. That's a big beat. I look at the PE, John, of this company. This is a company that makes money, right? And social media, that's what their expertise is. Actually, I have a very good friend who's one of the engineers who's a part of this company who was very, very proud of what he's been a part of and what he's been able to build. But when they've got a PE in this category that's only a 20, I would say that that's a very good thing. And when I look at the shorts, you've got about a 5 to about a 9% short interest here. This name is up for all the right reasons. They did the right thing. They delivered on what they were going to do. I'm pretty daggone impressed with the balance sheet and where they are right now. It's still a single-digit stock, $9.60 last I looked, but this is a company that I think could be a lot higher in the next couple of quarters, but for sure in the next couple of years, based upon what they're doing right now and how that is going to fit into the future, especially social media. I mean, let's be honest. Is that going to slow down or speed up? Probably speed up.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well then, Pete, we've got StitchFix. And the reason I'm showing you this one, folks, is that we had unusual option activity in it. Great. This also is another demonstration of the discipline it takes to do what Pete and I do, what Jared does as well, every day. And that is, you got to be disciplined about cutting losses as well as taking profits. My hands are pulling towards me, I'm taking profits. Well, what's going on with StitchFix was they were buying calls and the stock popped. It closed at 423 yesterday. It opened at 486 today. But then look at the chart. It came back down to being negative on the day by probably 40 cents, maybe even 50 cents. So you had a 50-cent rally, you reversed it, came down, so you're off by 50 cents. If you weren't disciplined about taking profits, folks, I can't help you.
Yep. And that's the difficulty that we always admit and always tell people about the options world is A, there's always a time frame, and B, you've got to be available to be able to execute when the time is right. And obviously, we all knew there was a catalyst out there. The catalyst got you that big pop to the upside that John was just describing. You've got to be there for that. If you weren't there, of course, you've missed it. Now, that doesn't mean you go completely to zero, but it certainly didn't help, and it certainly did change a lot because of the fact that you would have missed that move had you done that. So when you look at what the numbers are that they put up great, very, very strong numbers. They also had a nice forecast, John, for their Q3 and for the full year, well above what the street was looking for. So there's a lot of reasons to be very bullish on this one. By the way, we did have another call buyer come in there as well. So StitchFix has been pretty active. It kind of reminds me a little bit, I was talking to some of the guys today, of a little bit like a Pinterest where it makes moves. When it does, you better react. And if you're not there to react, you might have missed that move. So I think that you just have to understand that's the way the options work. It is not like the stocks. It is the options, because time is something that is very important, and that's a big piece to what you are when you're talking about all of these various things that go into pricing options. You got to know when it's going to expire. You also have to know what are the catalysts, and you have to be there to absolutely take advantage of what you've got.
Exactly. Well, Pete, let's take a look at what you got for Rebel Sports today, because I'm sure that everybody loved the Cooper Flag videos and so forth yesterday, and great player that the kid is. There's a lot going on in free agency, of course, and one of what was a 3-time MVP and one of the most talked about players hasn't been signed yet. So why don't you take it away and let me know what you think?
Well, the talk has been and continues to be he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. So the problem is his attitude, which I, by the way, I hate to say it, but I'd say I agree, because watching him last year with the Jets, and he'd come off to the sideline, wouldn't talk to the coaches, wouldn't talk to the other players, duck his head down and put a towel over him. That's not what you want your leader and your quarterback to do. And in the past, that wasn't really who he was. And he just, unfortunately, that I think was something that turned off a lot of people. A lot of people also, he's got a lot of things going on outside of football. And so there's a little bit of baggage that comes with Aaron Rodgers. And somebody will get him. And the possibility of him having a great year, I still think still exists, John. But what I wanted to hit today was I wanted to give one team, and it's not a bias because I've been as critical about the Minnesota Vikings as anybody. I'm a former Viking. I watch how they do a lot of the things that they do. I've reported on there. I go to the practices in the early fall, late summer, and watch to see who's going to be great and who's not and what they've got. So here's why I'm going to give the Vikings so far, and free agency's just really getting going, but why did I give them an A? And I think they are the number one so far. So here's why, John. Yes, we lost Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was not going to be the starting quarterback last year, except for the fact that J.J. McCarthy got hurt, a pretty bad injury to his knee that had to take a couple of different surgeries to get it repaired and get it right. And they think they've got it right. Now, right now, John, he's the only quarterback on the Vikings. Everybody else is gone. This guy went here. This guy went there. Obviously,
Jones.
Sam Darnold went to Seattle. And here we are with, one guy. So there will be a signing there as well. Daniel Jones is gone. We don't have a chance. He went to the Colts. So, but here's what I like what they did, John. We got Christian Darrisaw at left tackle. He's considered probably in the top 3 in the NFL for left tackles. That's where people will put him. Blake Brindle, he's our left guard. He's quiet. He's big. He's strong. He's pretty intimidating. Is he one of the best guards? No, but he's somewhere up in that middle to upper middle sort of area for guards. We got in a free agency, we just signed Ryan Kelly from the Colts. This guy, John, is a multiple 4-time Pro Bowler. So not so bad to pick him up at center, which was a weak spot. Will Freeze, another guy who came out of Indianapolis. He's one of the top guards in all of free agency. He just signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Brian O'Neill, who's a 2-time Pro Bowler, is our present right tackle, and he's going to be there. John, he's the kid who's so talented. He was a tight end at Pitt, and he came to the Vikings, and he got a little bit more weight on him, and he's been an unbelievably athletic right tackle. But when you put an offensive line, I don't care who the quarterback is, like the Vikings did, my guess would be that those sacks are going to drop significantly from what it was last year to what it'll be this year. And it gives JJ or whoever is the quarterback, but right now JJ, an opportunity to throw the ball. So for that reason, I give the Vikings an A. I know you look at this stuff too. Do you like what the Vikings did? Because they didn't go out and get all the flash, which is what they always do. They actually finally figured it out, all these baseball guys over there at the Vikings. They finally figured out, let's throw all these paperwork away. We need to have the big boys who aren't exciting, but they're the guys who are going to protect our quarterback. I think they did a great job of doing that. It's about time as well.
Yeah, the Bears are trying to do the exact same thing, Pete.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be a homer either, but when you lead the league in sacks, and not as a defense, but as an offense, it's not a good thing. And Caleb Williams has to be pretty damn frustrated, but now perhaps a little happier that the Bears are making some signings too. I like your O-line better than ours right now, Pete. And I think that's what J.J. McCarthy needs. And you know who else is probably still looking at it would be Brett Favre 2.0, also known as Aaron Rodgers. Yes. Because let's not forget, Aaron Rodgers, following in Brett Favre's footsteps, went to the Jets and then went to the Vikings. And then because of, Bounty Gate down there in New Orleans, Favre didn't make it to the Super Bowl. They were one play away, and he ended up throwing an interception. But they should have won, Pete, and should have gone to another Super Bowl. It would have been like their 6th.
Yeah.
I think, Super Bowl. But wow, I like what the Vikings did, Pete.
Yep. I tell you what, I think it makes sense. Guys like me say it all the time. I mean, as a defensive player, it's like, hey, you got a crappy offensive line, we're going to beat you. We just are. But if you can have that offensive line suddenly become a hell of a lot stronger, like they just did, and signed the right people, which is exactly what they did, we're going to be able to run the ball. They gave a lot of money to Aaron Jones, who's a heck of a running back. He's getting older. That part bothers me a little bit because he's $20 million, John, $10 million a year for the next 2 years. It's a lot of money for a guy north of 30. But, when you look at all of this, I think the Vikings really did a great job. And like I said, I am the most critical when it comes to that because they hadn't done that. And it was a jailbreak on Sam Darnold. And nobody ever wants to talk about, well, those last 2 games, Pete, he didn't look very good. Well, because you were playing against better teams, playoff level teams that got to the quarterback before he even got back on his back foot. So, it makes a big difference. All right, John, let's jump to the next one. Let's do a little NBA. And here's why I like this one. Kind of feels like a team. I'm not saying these guys are the Chicago Bulls. I am not saying that. But, John, the Cleveland Cavaliers are having an unbelievable year. And I've been paying attention to this for a while. We haven't really talked about it. But, John, they're 55-10. They already had a 15-game straight winning streak going early in the season. They're on one right now. They've got 15. They're going to go for 16 wins in a row. So what is it about these guys? Well, Donovan Mitchell, he's played in 60 of the games, John. Played and started 60 games. Darius Garland, 61 games. He's played and started. Garrett Allen, 65 games. He's played, he started. Evan Mobley, 58 games. He's played and started. These guys aren't doing load management. These guys are going out there and playing basketball, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are destroying teams wherever they go. So they're 55-10. Now, like I said, this isn't the Chicago Bulls, but they got some players, John. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's out of his mind this year. He's averaging 24 points a game. Garland is averaging 21 points a game, and he's doing a great job with his assists. Look at this kid, Garrett Allen, is a center. He's a big son of a gun. He's got 10 rebounds a game. He's getting 14 points. So everywhere you look, it's like these guys are committed to play. They're not going to sit out there. And so if you are somebody who wants to go watch a game and make sure you see the starters play, Lakers, you might want to go see Cleveland because that's the team that does it. They are the team that right now in the NBA who stands above everybody, even Boston, name whoever you want. These guys are absolutely spectacular, and they're playing the games the right way. If the rest of the NBA could learn something, maybe they'd learn that, John, because that might help their ratings.
Yeah, well, and you know what else helps ratings, Pete, is something like when Boston played the Lakers. That helps ratings because those are 2 great teams, and especially with Luka out there and LeBron sitting out. By the way, LeBron does sit out a lot. Pete and I have both talked about it, but he has played in 58 games. He's sitting out right now, I think, but he's played in 58 games. I think overall, that's 24 and 25, this season, let's say. But he does sit a lot during those games, Pete. Yeah. And that's also a problem for them because they've counted on him. But now that they've got Luka, Pete, do you think that maybe LeBron might get frustrated by the crowd reaction to Luka rather than him?
He might. He's hurt right now, LeBron. To defend him a little bit, he's got an injury, and he's out. They said a week to 2 weeks. He's 40 plus. He's 40 years old. So
right.
The fact that he's got an injury, it might be even a little bit longer than that. But I guarantee you one thing: his ego is big. We all know his ego's as big as he is, and he's a big human being and a scary-looking human being. I mean, he really is, and he's a powerful guy. But when it comes down to it, John, sometimes you just got to play. Now, right now, he's hurt, legitimately hurt, so I get it. But I think that if he comes back and Luka's getting all the pub, he might get a little bit jealous of that. Might want to be out on that court a little more often once he's healthier. So we'll see, and that might have been something that really, really helps. By the way, I was noticing that there's a lot of guys being pretty critical about Dallas for all the right reasons because of that trade still. And you know what? It is what it is. And now they're playing with it. And it was a great move by the Lakers because they jumped on it. They made the decision to do it. And for now, it's looking pretty damn good. Even if this guy's not in great shape every year, he's a hell of a player, John. I mean, he's definitely one of the best basketball players in the NBA.
Yeah, he is, Pete. And I think within, perhaps even in the NBA offseason, you're going to hear about Ms. Adelson, the majority owner, 78% now, she and her side, versus just 22 for Cuban. That team's going to Vegas. Yeah. They're going to make an announcement, and I'm not the first one to tell you guys that, but that's going to happen. She lives in Vegas. She's got the Las Vegas Sands and the convention center out there. No reason that she wouldn't want that team in Vegas, because Dallas and Texas aren't going to give them a casino, Pete. And that was the hope when she bought into that they could develop the casino around, the arena there in Dallas. But that doesn't seem likely. Right. All right. Well, again, folks, we've got a week and 2 days before we get out to Vegas and start our RebelCon 2025. So if you've been confused, scared, if you're looking for ways to turn some of your existing holdings into cash flow, by all means, join us the 22nd of March out in Las Vegas. Again, you got time. Airfares are still reasonable. Take a look at United today. Take a look at Delta. They're all down. They're pushing those airfares out there. And now Southwest, they're going to stop letting you fly with your bags for free on May 24th. But don't worry, this is March 22nd. So come on out, even if you got to fly Southwest. See us out there. You can scan the QR code on the screen and or go to RebelCon. That's marketrebellion.com/RebelCon to join us the 22nd of March out in Vegas for a full day on Saturday, so you won't even miss trading, of strategies, and I think you'll enjoy it. I know you'll be coming away a smarter investor. All right, that's it for us, Pete. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks.